Hello my dear friends, how are you all? I hope you all are good and fantastic. So my dear friends, you are very welcome in our lecture number 3. Okay, so now my dear friends, I hope you will enjoy this lecture. So this lecture is going to be very amazing because we are going to learn angle of elevation. Okay, so without wasting this time, let's start our main topic. Yes, so now my dear friends, in this lecture, we are going to study angle of elevation in detail. Okay, in previous lectures, we already learned about this angle of elevation, but now here we are going to learn in detail. Okay, we are going to discuss in detail angle of elevation. Okay, my dear friend. So the angle of elevation is a widely used concept related to height and distance, okay, especially in trigonometry. So the angle of elevation, what? Yes, angle of elevation is a widely used concept related to height and distance. Height and distance, especially in trigonometry. Especially in trigonometry. Okay, my dear friend. So it is defined as the angle between the horizontal plane and oblique line from the observer's eye to some object above his eye. Okay, so it is defined how? As an angle, okay, between between the horizontal plane and oblique line from the observer's eyes, from the observer's eye to some object above his eyes. So here is the main concept is this, okay, above his eyes. Okay, in angle of elevation the object is above his eyes. Okay, so the observer is looking above his eyes. Okay, yes. So this angle of elevation, okay, so this angle of elevation is formed above the surface. Angle of elevation is formed above the surface. Okay, is formed above the surface. So as the name itself has, because the angle of elevation is formed, that is above the observer eye. So what? So the angle of elevation, okay, so the angle of elevation is so formed is so formed that is what above the observer's eye, above the observer's eye. So my dear friends, I hope you understand these things. Okay, so for example, an observer is looking at a bird sitting at the rooftop. Okay, then there is an angle formed which is inclined towards the bird from the observer's eye. This elevation angle is used in finding distances, heights, birds or towers, etc. with the help of trigonometric ratios such as sine, cosine and tangent. Okay, so for example, an observer, okay, is looking at a bird, okay, sitting at the okay, at the rooftop. Okay, my dear friends, then their angle is formed. Then their angle is formed, which is inclined towards the bird, okay my dear friends, from the observer's eyes, eye. Okay, so this elevation angle, this angle of elevation is used to find what? Is used to find the distances and heights, okay, of like a building or towers, okay, etc. with the help of what? With the help of trigonometric ratios, okay my dear friends, so I hope you understand this concept. What is angle of elevation? Okay, when we are looking upward direction, so the angle is formed which is inclined towards the upward, okay, from the observer's eyes. Then the angle is formed which is known as angle of elevation. Okay my dear friends, like let's suppose this is an observer sitting on a rooftop, okay, and here is a bird. Assume that it is a bird, okay. I know this is not a bird, but let us assume, okay, this is a bird. Now the observer look at this bird, and the angle which is formed is known as what? Angle of elevation. Okay, so my dear friends, we can say that, okay, so the angle of elevation is an angle that is formed between horizontal line and line of sight. What is line of sight. Okay, as we discussed in the previous lecture, what is line of sight? This is our line of sight, and this is our horizontal line. This is our what? Horizontal line. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you understand these things. So, if the line of sight is upward from the horizontal line, then the angle formed is an angle of elevation. Means it is saying that if the line of sight is above the horizontal line, okay, if the line of sight is upward or above the horizontal line, then we can say that the angle formed is an angle of elevation. Okay, so there is another definition, is that what is the angle of elevation? The angle of elevation is an angle that is formed between the horizontal line and the line of sight. And the what? Line of sight. If the line of sight okay, is upward from the horizontal line, then the angle formed is an angle of elevation. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you understand these things. So what is angle of elevation? Okay, it is the angle between line of sight and horizontal line. Okay, if the line of sight is upward from the horizontal line, then we can say that the angle which is formed known as angle of elevation. Okay, if now in this case, if we join this to this line, okay, so this will make a right triangle. This will make like this. This will make what? Right triangle. Okay, A, B, C. So now with the help of this triangle and trigonometric ratios, we can easily find the distances between them and or maybe height. Okay, so if we know the line of sight, okay, then we know this angle of elevation, then we can easily find the distance of the bird from the ground. Okay, my dear friends, if we know the height, BC, and we know the angle, then we can easily find the line of sight. So this is the application of trigonometry. Okay, now, so finally let's move on. Yes, now terms used for angle of elevation. So there are some terms which we are using for the angle of elevation. So there are three terms related to the angle of elevation, which are: first is angle, second is horizontal line, and the third is line of sight. So these three terms we are using in the angle of elevation. Okay, so now we are discussing detail step by step. So first is what? First is angle. Okay, so if two rays or two line segments meet at common endpoint, then the point is known as the vertex. We know that. Okay, means let's suppose if two rays like this, okay, if two rays or two line segments meet at a common point like this, meet at a common point, at a common point, then which is known as vertex. Okay, so two straight line meets at a common point is said to form an angle. So this is an angle. Okay, and angle play an important role, and some other definitions angles are: the angle is a gap between two lines which connect on one side. What is the angle? The angle between the angle is a gap between the two lines which connects on one side like this. Okay, or the angle are measured in degree. The angles are measured in degree. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you understand these things. So now, so the second point is horizontal line. Horizontal line. Okay, so a straight line on the coordinate flat surface where all points on the line have the same y coordinates. Okay, and the angle and horizontal line combine to form the angle of elevation. Combine to form the angle of elevation. Okay, so it is a straight line. It is what? It is a this. It is a this simple straight line on the coordinate flat surface where all the points on the line have the same y coordinates. Okay, let's suppose these are Cartesian plane, and this is a what? This is our horizontal line. So if there is a 3 point, so 3 is constant in all the lines. Okay, so the points will be changing in x direction, but in y direction there is no changes. Y direction there is no changes. So the points like 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, and this is 5, 3. Okay, so the points, so the coordinates of x-axis are increases, but the coordinates on the y-axis are not increases. This is constant. So this is our horizontal line. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you understand these things. So now, yes, line of sight. Third point is line of sight. Okay, so what is line of sight? So the line which is drawn from the eyes of the observer to the point being viewed on the object, means the point where being viewed on the object is known as the line of sight. So we can write it as the line which is drawn from the eyes of the observer to the point being viewed on the object is known as the line of sight. Okay, so here the object is kept above the line of sight. okay, above the line of sight of the observer. If we know the angle of elevation, then we can easily determine the distance or the altitude. Okay, so the reason why we are using the trigonometric function is that the angle formed with the respect to the observer's eyes to the top of the building or tower produces in an imaginary right angle, okay, where the height of the building or tower is considered as a perpendicular of a triangle, where like this, let's suppose this is a building, so it is considered as a perpendicular, or let's suppose this is a tower, okay, so the distance is considered as a perpendicular. Okay, my dear friends, and let's suppose if there is an observer, and this is a line of sight, this is horizontal, so this is what, this is our angle of elevation. Okay, my dear friends, so with the help of this we can easily find this distance. Okay, so I hope you get this point. So now let's move on. Yes, angle of elevation formula. The formula for finding the angle of elevation depends on knowing the information such as the measures of the opposites, hypotenuse and adjacent to the right angles. Okay, my dear friends, so it is depends on the perpendicular, hypotenuse and base. If the distance from the object and height of the object is given, then the formula of the angle of elevation is given as if the distance from the object and height of the object is given, then the formula for the angle of elevation, is given as, okay, so we can write tangent of the angle of elevation is equals to height of the object okay divided by distance from the object. Means, in short, if we have like this is theta, angle of elevation, this is height of the tower, and this is the distance between them, between the object and the tower. Okay, so this is our base, this is our perpendicular, this is our hypotenuse. So tan theta is equals to perpendicular upon base, means height of the distance, height of the object divided by distance between the objects. Okay, so this is our formula. Okay, my dear friend, so let's do some examples. Okay, so now in this, find the value of theta in the given figure. Now we have to find the theta. Okay, so this is very easy. We know that tan theta is equals to perpendicular upon base. What is perpendicular? This is 249. And what is base? This is 335. This is what? 335. And if we solve it, we get 0.74. Okay, now therefore theta is equals to tan inverse 0.74, so we get 36. So theta is equals to what? 36 degree. Okay, this is our answer. So the next question is, if the angle of inclination formed by an observer, if the angle of inclination formed by an observer to an object kept above a tower is 45 degree, find the horizontal distance between the observer and the height of the tower, which is the height of the tower is 150 feet. Like, let's suppose this is a tower. Okay, this is ground, this is a tower, and the height of the tower is what? The height of the tower is 150 feet. Okay, and suppose the angle of elevation from the ground, angle of elevation from the ground is what? Is 45 degree. Okay, my dear friends. So now we have to find the horizontal distance, means this distance. Okay, so for finding this distance we have to use the formula of angle of elevation. Okay, so we know that tan 45 degree is equals to perpendicular upon base. Okay, so what is the value of tan 45? 1. And we know that perpendicular is 150 divided by base is, we have to find, let's suppose this is A, B and C. Okay, so we have to find BC. So this will become 150 feet. So the distance between the observer and the height of tower is, and the tower is what? 150 feet. So my dear friends, I hope you understand this concept. Okay, so now this is enough for today, and we will meet in the next lecture with the next amazing topic. So thank you very much guys for listening me, and take care and goodbye.